Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Hello everyone. Now we are going to beginning with the third chapter of social science as a part of our history. This is the third chapter of history and it is the part of our social science. Inside this chapter, we are coming to discuss with the broad headline of this Delhi Sultanate. This is the first phase, Delhi Sultanate one. In this chapter, we are going to discuss with that the rulers between the 1205 to 1526 AD. This is the time period which we are going to discuss inside this chapter, means that the 13th century to the 16th century. In this time period, who were the rulers of our country? How they entered our country? What were their contribution? How they were ruling over India? The monumental art and architecture, their administration. So, and the many of the rulers have been mentioned over here under this, the heading of Delhi Sultanate. So this period between this 13th to the 16th century, Indian history is known as the period of the Delhi Sultanate. This period 1205 to 1526 is known as Delhi Sultanate. Inside this, the many of the rulers as a Slave Dynasty, who was the important ruler of this dynasty, who founded this dynasty, who succeeded after the one after another. Then among them we have to study about that, the first and the last woman ruler of this Sultanate, then most important ruler and their contribution, like this Qutub Minar, wonders of the. Then we have the Khalji dynasty. This Khalji dynasty, how they have ruled, what were the conquest, the system, expansion policy. Among them, Alauddin Khalji, how he was very famous. Then their expansion and the map of India, how it was. In the beginning year, it was like this, and the latter, they had tried to make the countries to rule over the country just like as King Asoka. A vast territory under the rule of the Khalji dynasty. Inside this, about the different rulers, different dynasties, we are coming to discuss, and all these are categorized under this, under the heading of the Delhi Sultanate. So let's begin the chapter. These are the some of the important rulers of the Slave Dynasty or Delhi Sultanate. These are some of the important rulers: Iltutmish, Qutubuddin Aibak, Rajia Sultan, Balwan and Nasiruddin Mahmud. So these are some of the pictures and the photos of the important rulers of the Delhi Sultanate, which they ruled over India between 1205 to 1526 AD. Delhi Sultanate, the period between this 1206 to 1526 in the Indian Sultanate, this period started with the association of Muhammad Ghori and establishment of Slave Dynasty by his military general Qutubuddin Aibak. This is the slave, this Indian Sultanate. It was started by Muhammad Ghori, and with the establishment of the Slave Dynasty, his military general Qutubuddin Aibak was his military general. He was the military general of Muhammad Ghori, and he has only established Slave Dynasty in India. To study the Delhi Sultanate in its totality, it is important to know about the dynasties that ruled during this period. Which were the dynasty? During this, the Slave Dynasty, the period which is mentioned over here, which dynasties were there actually? They ruled over the country. These dynasties were the slaves. First of all, these all comes under the Delhi Sultanate. The first of all, it was the Slave Dynasty, then Khaljis, Tughlaqs, the Sayyids, and the Lodhis. But inside this chapter, we have to study about that, the slaves and the Khaljis in detail. But the moment after that, the decline of the Khalji dynasty, it has been handed over or it has been conquered by the Tughlaqs. The chapter ends with that only. So this way, who is the founder of the Delhi Sultanate? Iltutmish and Kutubuddin Aibak. These two personalities has been considered as the founders of Delhi Sultanate. How we are having this idea and the knowledge about these historical sources, who were slaves, how these dynasties were established, who were Khaljis, who was Kutubuddin Aibak, who was Iltutmish. So now we are coming to discuss with that the historical sources through which we are having all these ideas. Who has written all these the records in their accounts? Coming to discuss in detail with this. So first of all, it comes about that historical chronicles. Chronicles, which is Al-Barani's. This is Tahqiq-e-Hind. Al-Barani was a court poet, a writer, a traveler. Al-Barani's Tarikh-e-Firoz Shahi, Amir Khusro's Tughlaqnama, Sultan Firoz Shah Futuhat Firoz Shahi, and Yahya bin Ahmad's Tarikh-e-Mubarak Shahi, then Makhzari-e-Afghan by Niyamatullah are such great deeds which deal with the history of the Delhi Sultanate. These are the name of the certain books, or can say that the chronicles. Court chronicles means that in the court of the different rulers, different sultans, all these the chronicles were written by the different writers, by the different court poets, court writers. Among them were Al-Baruni. This is the picture of Al-Baruni. This is Amir Khusro. So, not only Al-Baruni, Amir Khusro, but this is the Firoz Shah's Futuhat-e-Firoz Shahi and the Yahya bin Ahmad's Tarikh-e-Mubarak Shahi, then Makhzari-e-Afghan by Niyamatullah. So, Al-Baruni, Amir Khusro, Niyamatullah, these are the great deeds and the work done by them. And the history, what we are getting, the idea about this Delhi Sultanate is been collected from their chronicles by the written work done by these writers. Travelers' account. Who they have traveled to India in those days? They also have recorded so many things about the Indian rulers, about the Indian people, their administration, their relation with the neighboring countries, their control over the resources. All such things were recorded by these travelers as well. During the Sultanate period, many foreign travelers visited India. This is the picture of Marco Polo and Ibn Battuta. Both they were the travelers. So this is what it says, that during the Sultanate period, many foreign travelers visited India. Some of them were Ibn Battuta, Al-Baruni, Marco Polo and Nikitin. They were the very famous and the well-known travelers. Kitabul Rehla of Ibn Battuta, an account of Al-Baruni describes the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Al-Barunis, Marco Polo, Nikitan were the well-known travelers. Ibn Battuta was also one of them. And they have written their book. Ibn Battuta's Kitabul Rehala was is an account of the it is an account of the Al-Baruni in which that he describes about that the reign of the Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Then it comes about historical sources, historical monuments. These all are the monuments which has been constructed during the Delhi Sultanate. All these are the monuments. At the center it is the most important and the massive creation by this Delhi Sultans were Qutub Minar, situated and located in Delhi. So historical monuments related to this period are very important source of information. These monuments are Qutub Minar, then Quwwatul Islam Masjid, Alai Darwaja, Firoz Shah Kotla, Lodhi Tomb, etc. And these monuments speak of the artistic choice of different dynasties. Every that the dynasty they have the different choice, and as per their choice, all these the monuments were constructed. They have the different dynasties during the Sultanate period, and during the different sultanates, the different sultans, different dynasties, these monuments were constructed by the different rulers. Then coming to discuss with this the slave dynasty, which is actually the chapter is based on. Till now we have discussed about that, the sources, how we are getting this information. Who were the rulers or the real writers, who they have preserved the history of Delhi Sultanate. In that we have discussed about that, court chronicles, travelers account, as well as the historical monuments. These collections, they play a very important role to reconstruct the history of our country, or to tell us about that, how these dynasties were ruling over India. So in this part now, we are going to start with that, the slave dynasty, which ruled our country in 1206 to 1290. This means that between the 13th century, the whole of this century, how this slave dynasty were ruling over our country. First of all, in this we are coming to discuss with Qutbuddin Aibak. His tenure was, or his time period was 1206 to 1210. He was a former military general of Muhammad Ghori. Became the first Sultan of Delhi Sultanate. He was the first. What was he? He was a former military general of Muhammad Ghori and became the first Sultan of Delhi Sultanate. He was the only Sultan of this dynasty who belonged to the Mamluk tribe, while other Sultans of this dynasty belonged to Ilabari tribe of Turks. Only this ruler, he was from the Mamluk tribe. Other than him, who they were the slaves, who they were the rulers or sultans of the Delhi Sultanate, they belong to Ilabari tribe of Turks. He is known as the founder of slave or Mamluk dynasty, Qutbuddin Aibak. He is only famous for that, the founder of slave or Mamluk dynasty. Qutbuddin Aibak was a kind-hearted and generous ruler. He was also known as a very nice that the nickname is given Lakh Bucks or donor of lakhs, means that the amount he was donating. Qutbuddin Aibak was the patron of architecture. He built Qutub Minar and Quwwatul Islam Mosque in Delhi. This way he was the patron of the art also, and his contribution was also there with the construction of Quwwatul Islam Mosque in Delhi. This After this, as he was the very generous, he became very famous with the lakh works or the donors of lakhs. The Sultan faced two big hurdles during his rule. One of them was his followers and the regional rulers of northern India. The hurdles he was getting even from the as from his own followers as well as from the rulers of northern India. The other was many Turkish nobles who did not like the kingship of a slave. As he belonged from the slave dynasty, many of that the nobles they did not like. Their ruler belonged to a slave dynasty. They created these nobles actually, they created several problems for the Sultan, but Qutbuddin suppressed them. So this way he was having this idea how to tackle, how to handle the situation. In 1210 AD, when Qutbuddin Aibak was playing Chogan, which is polo. He was playing Chogan is a word used in the textbook. And what is the English of this Chogan? Is polo. At his capital in Lahore. His capital city was Lahore. There he fell from his horse and he died. This way, this Qutbuddin Aibak's regime came to an end. After him, Iltutmish, he ascended on the throne. Qutbuddin Aibak, so simply it has been said in the textbook, also written, and it is a fact about that, Qutbuddin Aibak was succeeded by his son-in-law, Iltutmish. Iltutmish was his son-in-law, daughter's husband. Earlier, Iltutmish was a slave of Qutbuddin Aibak. Can imagine about that. He was a slave of Qutbuddin Aibak. But after that, he became his son-in-law, and after sometimes after the death of Qutbuddin Aibak, he succeeded to the throne. Earlier, Iltutmish was a slave of Qutbuddin Aibak, but very soon he developed high position in and got married with the daughter of the Sultan. And Iltutmish faced several internal and external problems, but he was an intelligent ruler. Many problems were faced by him, but although he was very intelligent ruler, he allowed grants of jagirs to his Turkish nobles. Jagirs were now started offered by him to his Turkish nobles and pleased them while he suppressed the internal rebellions. Internally, who they were trying to create problem for, or they were becoming the hurdles for the Iltutmish. He was very efficient and he suppressed all the internal rebellions. He reorganized the nobles into a selected group of 40 or Chalisa. This is the very interesting thing. This is the Chalisa. He has organized the groups of the nobles, the selected groups, and which was known as Chalisa. Also called Tarkan-e. This is Tarkan-e Chahalgami. This is Tarkan-e Chahalgami. Tarkan-e Chahalgami, and he introduced Ikta system. Ikta system was actually under which the lands were assigned to nobles and others in lieu of salary. And the nobles, according to this system, when it was assigned to the nobles, their duty was to collect the taxes from the peasants, from the farmers. Under which the lands were assigned to nobles and others in lieu of salary, he introduced two types of coins. That is also very important achievement of this ruler. He introduced two types of the coins. One is in silver, the metal silver, which was known as tanka, and another was of the copper, which was known as jittal. He extended the next two floors of the Qutub Minar. Qutbuddin Aibak, he has started the construction of Qutub Minar, and the last two floors or the top two floors of Qutub Minar was added by Iltutmish. Then next it comes about that Rajia Sultan, first and the last woman ruler of Sultan of Delhi or Sultanate of Delhi. She was the first and the last woman. Iltutmish was succeeded by his daughter Rajia. As she was holding the position of Sultan, so her name became the Rajia Sultan. But the nobles, they did not agree with this decision of Iltutmish. What happened then? As they were not agreed, they placed Ruknuddin Firoz Shah. Ruknuddin Firoz Shah was the son of Iltutmish. With this, the disagreement by the nobles, they replaced Razia Sultan and they have given the chance to Ruknuddin Firoz Shah and made him sit on the throne. But Ruknuddin Firoz Shah, he failed to control and manage the kingdom. He was not very efficient person. He was not able to manage. He was completely failed. Hence, within months, he was replaced by Rajia. Within a month, few months only after that, as he was failed, not able to rule over the country, he has been replaced by Rajia. Rajia's rule was short and full of troubles. Already we have discussed just now that she has not been liked by the nobles. Nobles, they did not like the woman ruler. So her period was very short and full of troubles. Nobles opposed her as she began to make major decisions without consulting the nobles and try to reduce their power. The main reason behind it was first of all, she was very intelligent. She was able to control the territory and to rule over the kingdom, rule over the empire. But as the nobles, they did not like her, so what she has started doing, without consulting the nobles, she tried to consulting the nobles. She was started taking her decisions, and always she was trying to reduce the power of the nobles. The nobles, finally, what happened? The nobles, they revolted against Rajia. In AD 1240, she was dethroned, and moment she was dethroned, she died also very soon. Only 4 years she was on the throne. Only for 4 years. 1236 she was ascended on the throne and 1240 she was dethroned. After the death of Rajia, several kings came to power, but all were like puppets. Puppets were, whom they were the puppets? In the hands of the powerful nobles. Real rulers were the nobles, and these the rulers after the death of or dethrone of the Rajia Sultan, many of that the rulers, they ascended on the thrones, but they just act like as a puppet because the real power was handled by the powerful nobles. This is the another ruler of Delhi Sultanate, Ghiyasuddin Balwan. His name was Ghiyasuddin Balwan. He was the another most important ruler of this slave dynasty. He was also one of the member of the 40, the Chalisa, which was introduced by Iltutmish. Also known as the 40, the Chalisa was known as with the Tarkan-e Chahalgami. Tarkan-e Chahalgami. This is the revised name Chalisa, the 40, and the real name which was introduced by Iltutmish was Tarkan-e Chahalgami. So this Ghiyasuddin Balwan, he was one of the 40. His own Turkish chiefs, the 40 were his worst enemies. But his own chiefs, who they were the members of this Chalisa, they were his worst enemy. Hence, he abolished the power of the 40 boldly and reorganized and strengthened his army. These 40 were now abolished by him and he has reorganized his army. He was the most powerful ruler of this dynasty. In this, the Delhi Sultanate, he was the one of the most important ruler, and he adopted a very stern policy, which is known as the policy of iron and blood. This is the very stern policy which he has adopted, was known as iron and blood. He fortified northwestern boundary against the invasions of Mongols and defended the Sultanate. He has given the full support and the protection to the Delhi Sultanate. He introduced Persian custom of Sijda and Pabos. This is the very important thing which has been introduced by Balwan. First of all, as he was also one of the member of the Chalisa, he reorganized Chalisa because his own that the chiefs of the 40 were the worst enemy. So he reorganized and strengthened his army, and he adopted the very stern policy which was known as the policy of iron and blood. He has fortified the northwestern boundary against the invasions of the Mongols and defended the Sultanate. He introduced the custom of Sijda and Pabos. In 1286, Balwan died. He ascended on the throne in 1266, and he died in 1286. So this was the time period about that, the 20 years he was there on the throne. His successors were weak and inefficient. They could not sustain the dynasty, and the dynasty was declined. The slave dynasty declined after the death of Ghiyasuddin Balban. The throne of Delhi Sultanate was transferred in the hands of the Khaljis. So in this we have already, in the beginning only we have discussed about that. We have to discuss with that the slave dynasty, Mamluk rulers, as well as the Khaljis, decline of the slaves, decline of the Delhi Sultanates, the power with the slave dynasty. Now it has to be transferred after the death of the Ghiyasuddin Balwan. It has to be transferred to the Khaljis. Then after the decline of the Khaljis, how it has to be transferred to the Tughlaqs. So this way we are coming to discuss inside this.